Haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Mem Beis Amud Beis, the third line from the top. The Gemara previously brought a machlokes whether a zar can shech the para aduma. Rav maintains that it's poisil. Shmuel on the other hand says it's kosher. The Gemara now brings another machlokes amoroim whether a zar is poisil when he's shoichet the para aduma or not. Says the Gemara Itmar, Shchita para bezar, when the zar is shoichet the para aduma, Rabbi Ami Amar Kesher, Rabbi Yitzchok Nafcha Amar Psula. Rabbi Ami says it's kosher, like the Shita of Shmuel, whereas Yitzchok Nafcha, he goes like Rav and says it's poisul. Ula Amar Kesher, Va'amri lo Psula. Ula says kosher, but there are those who say that he says that is posul. So not clear the shita of Ula. Al Kopanim, we do have a machlokes amoroim over here, just like we saw by Rav and Shmuel. Mosi Rabbi Yoshua ben Abba l'siyuei l'Rav. Rabbi Yoshua bar Abba, he brings a brayso to support Rav, which would be a tiyufta on Shmuel. Ein li ela hazoaz mimeho shein ksherim be'isha u'be'ish. He says when it comes to the mechatos, that sprinkling of the mechatos is only going to be kosher with a man doing so and not a woman. Ve'en ksherin ela bayoim also requires to be done during the day and not at night. Ask the Brisa minayin l'rabois shchitoso ve'kabolos doma ve'hazos doma. Where do we know that indeed when it says that it comes to say that has to be done during the day, that also is so when it comes to the shchita and the kabbalah of the dam and the zrika of the dam. Usreifasa v'hashlochas eitz erez ezov v'shnitolas, as well as when it comes to the burning and the throwing in the cedar tree, the hyssop, together with the wool, that also has to be done during the day and not at night. Tamulay mar Torah. For that, the Pasuk says Torah. Zois chukas ha-Torah. Torah comes to be an all-inclusive, saying that this is also going to be required during the day. Just as the maichatos, that is sprinkled. Yachal, I think, shani marbe af asifas efra umilui mayim v'kidush. I might think the latter procedures are also included that required to be during the day, specifically the gathering of the afer, of the ashes, the pouring of the water, and the mixing, the kiddush. Talmud loymar zois. Therefore we have an exclusion that it says v'zois chukas haTorah. Zois teaches me this and not other things. I asked the Brisa, why were the former ones mentioned included, that we learned them out from the mechatos, that they have to, the sprinkling of mechatos, they also have to be done during the day, whereas the latter ones are excluded? Says the Gemara, the Brisa, from the fact that the pasuk comes to then marbe by saying Torah, and also says miyut by saying zois. Amris, we then use a deduction, a logical deduction. Since we learn it all from the sprinkling of the mechatos, so mahaza mimeho einan ksherin be'isha kibe'ish ve'ein ksherin ele bayoim. Just as when it comes to the mechatos, that can only be performed by an isha, not an isha, and also during the day and not at night. Afani avish chitos v'kabolos dama. V'hazah dama usreifos v'hashlochas eitz erez ve'ezah v'shnitolas hoyo ve'en kshen be'isha kebe'ish ve'en kshen ele bayoim. So too, therefore, I include all of these things which are also only be able to be performed by an ish and not an isha. So too, therefore, they're also performed by a during the day and not at night. Umoitzi ani asifas efra umilu mayim v'kidush hoyo kshen be'ish. Since these latter procedures can be performed also by a woman, therefore they cannot be performed, therefore they can also be performed during the night as well as during the day. In other words, the former list of procedures, which we learn out from Mechatos, which is only done during the day, since it can also only be done by a man, and the Mechatos can only be done by a man. So therefore, the same way that the Mechatos can only be done by a man, and it can also only be done during the day, therefore these procedures also, which can only be done by a man, should also require to be done also during the day and not at night. Whereas the latter procedures, those can be performed by a woman, unlike the mechatos. So therefore it's mistaber to say they can also be performed at night as well as during the day. Ask the Gemara now, once we brought this brisa, but v'hai mai tiyufte, we brought the brisa in the name of Rabbi Yehoshua bar Abba as a support for Rav, and a tiyufta on Shmuel to say that a zar who shech the paraduma is poisel. Where do we see from this brisa like Rav as a tiyufta on Shmuel? Ilema psulin beisha psulinami bezar. If you're going to say because that which is possible by an isha will also be poisel a zar, and since a isha cannot go ahead and perform the shchita, therefore Izar also cannot perform this shchita. Hazaz meimel toichiach shepsulim beisha v'ksheim bezar. But the hazaz meimel, there it is possible by an isha, but it's kosher bezar, so we can't bring a raya from there. So what is indeed the tiyufta against Shmuel? Asks the Gemara. Omar Abaye haini tiyufta. Abaye explains this is the following to explain the tiyufta of the brisa. Isha my timer. What is the reason why an Isha is excluded? Why? Because Elazar velo Isha, since the pasuk is Elazar, therefore comes to exclude the Isha. So therefore Zar Nami Elazar velo Zar. So too then the Zar is excluded. In other words, when the pasuk says V'shochat oso lefonov, so there was a machlokes how to learn this pasuk when it says, and he will shecht it in front of him. Does that refer to Elazar doing the shechting? And in front of him means that in front of himself he shouldn't be mesiach das. That's how Rav learns, and therefore only Elazar the kohen go ahead and shecht the paraduma. Or does it mean that v'shochat oiso lefonov? It means that a zar shall shecht in front of him, in front of Elazar. Whereby, that's how Shmuel learned. From here we see that the same way that it's the Elazar v'lo Isha, it must be over here, that we're learning the pasuk like Rav. And therefore, it refers to then Elazar v'lo Isha and Elazar v'lo Zar. Take a look at the Rashi in the parallel, Elazar v'lo Isha. Rashi speaks this out. Ve'al korchoch v'shochat oso lefonov Elazar ko dorish le Tanaka Rav. It must be this brisa explains like Rav does in this pasuk. The isha achar shoichet ve'Elazar roye kedoy Shmuel, because if it was referring to somebody else shechting a non-kohen in front of Elazar, the way Shmuel learns, mehecha memayit isha, how will that exclude a woman? If Elazar is not the one who's shechting, is Zar shechting? Ella Elazar darish leitana. Rather, you see that this brisa, the Tana, is certainly learning that when it says v'shochat oiso lefonov, who's the one who's shechting? Elazar shechting, to exclude the isha. So too, therefore, it excludes the Zar also. The same way that this brisa comes to show that excludes the isha, it also comes to exclude the Zar, and therefore we have a tiyufta on Shmuel. Omar Ula says when it comes to the analyzing the psukim, the whole parsha of Para Aduma, we will see that some of the implications of the procedures, of the conditions, are actually different than the previous implications. Whereas other times we find psukim that indicate that the implication is similar to the previous psukim's implications. Says Ula, Omar Ula, Kol HaParsha, the entire parsha of Para Aduma, Mashma moitzi miyad mashma umashma mimela. It has implications that take out our moitzi, that reverse the previous implications, and yet we have psukim that imply that the conditions are the same as the previous psukim. And he brings psukim to then analyze in order to show this thesis. V'nosatam oisa el Elazar hakohen, and they shall bring it, the paraduma, to Elazar hakohen. Oisa le'Elazar v'lo ledoros le'Elazar. It to Elazar, and not for future generations to Elazar. In other words, Elazar, the sgan hakohanim, the sgan of the kohen gadol, he is brought the paraduma, but oisa, and not in the future are they bringing to Elazar, can be another kohen. The Gemara explains, Ike da Amrei, which kohen are we talking about? There are those that say, L'darois b'kohen gadol. The future generations has to be performed by a kohen gadol. V'ike da Amrei, L'darois b'kohen hadiot. Whereas others say that the future generations will be talking about another kohen, lav dafka kohen gadol, even a kohen hadiot. The Gemara says, Bishlama lemanda omar, L'darois b'kohen hadiot is shapir, because the Pashut understanding would be if it's not Elazar, then it could be then a regular kohen. But El Laman da Amar Ledoris Bekohen Gadol Minole, where do we know to learn, according to that opinion that says for future generations it must be the kohen Gadol? Gomar explains the Gemara Chuka Miyam HaKippurim. We have a Gezer Shova of Chuka from Yom HaKippurim. One pasuk in regards to Yom HaKippurim states, V'hoisa zois lachem lechukas oilam lechaper al bnei Yisrael mikol chatoisam achas bashona v'yaz kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe. So there it says the word chuka, and it says in regards to paraduma, v'hoisa lahem lechukas oilam umaze me'anida yichabes begoda v'nogia b'mei hanida yitma ada erev. So there it also says chukas. So if we have chuka, a gezer sheva, just like the kohen gadol performs the kapara on Yom HaKippurim, the avodah on Yom HaKippurim, and it says chukah, so too, therefore, the paradum must be performed by the kohen gadol in future generations. V'hoitzi oiso, and he shall bring it out. Shelo yoitzi acheres ima. The Tanakama, here it says, a drasha, that he shall not bring it out with another type of para. Kedisna, like the Mishnah in para explains. Lo haisa para roitza, let's say the paradum does not want to go out on its own. Now you can't take a rope and tie it around its neck and drag it out, because that would be considered to be an avoid that will poistil the paraduma. So it says over here, if the para does not want to go out on its own, ein moitzin ima shechara shelo yomu shechara shachtoi. You cannot go ahead and bring out a para that is black together with it to entice it to walk out also, because then people will think that he's shechting also the para that is that he's shechting the shchara instead of the para aduma. Vein moitzini mo aduma shelo yom shtayim shachto, and you cannot bring out another para aduma with it, because we don't want people to think that he shechted two para adumas would be poisel. Those are the words of the Tanakama. Rabbi Oimer loy min Hashem huzeh. That's not the reason for the pasuk to say that he can't go out with a black para or another red para. Ela mishum shenema, because the pasuk says oiso. That's what's coming to teach me. Levado, it has to come out alone. They take it out. They take it out as opposed to v'hoitzi oiso dafka it, to the exclusion with another para. The Tanakama asked the Gemara, ha kasiv oiso. It says oiso. So why did Tanakama not bring the pasuk of oiso as its reason for saying that a para that is aduma or shechara cannot be brought out with it? The Gemara explains, man Tanakama, who is this Tanakama that says that it's the reason that people might say that he shechted the para that is shechara instead or together with another para aduma? Because Rabbi Shimon, this is the sheet of Rabbi Shimon, that's the Tanakama here. The Dorish Taimei Dekra, who darshans and explains the pasuk based on its reasoning. In which case, my beinayu, what would be the nafkamina between the Tanakama and Rabbi? That means the Tanakama who is Rabbi Shimon, what would he be saying differently than Rabbi? L'chara, they're both saying that a para aduma cannot go out with a para shechara or another para aduma. Says the Gemara, my beinayu, what is the difference between the two? Ika beinayu is the following difference. Mem gimel amar aleph the apik chamor behado. If you took out a chamor donkey together with the para aduma. So according to the Tanakam Rabbi Shimon, he says that we're concerned that people might say, right? They might say that he's taking out a shchara and shechting the shchara instead of the aduma, or taking out another aduma and shechting the both of them. So if you take out a chamor with the para aduma, there's no such concern that people will say this is what he did. But according to Rabbi, who learns it's a gezeres hakosuf, a diuk of hoitzi oiso, only it alone, then if it's a chamor, cannot be taken out with the para aduma. So that would be a nafka mina, according to the two shitas. And therefore, that's why, according to Rebbe, who does not go with the time of the Kra, like Rabbi Shimon the Tanakama, but goes by the Gzeres HaKos of Oisov, which exclude everything, including a donkey.